Stakeout mode setup for the Leica Robotic Total Station. Once your equipment is set up, if you need at any point to access the level and laser plummet, you can do so by hitting Shift, F12. We'll pull up our menu, escape back to the main menu. To access Stakeout mode, you're going to use main menu icon 2, Programs. Once you get in Programs, it's going to be option 3, Stakeout. Select Stakeout, Enter, or F1 to continue. It's going to bring out our Stakeout menu. Here, we can do as we did with Survey. Click on the name, brings up our data job info that is stored into our memory card. We can select which job we want to work off of. For this example, we're going to use default. Enter or F1 to continue. Next, our job. We also want to use default. Again, you can pull up that menu, hit enter, and it'll bring us to our next option. So we're going to stake out our default job from our default job. Let's say you want to say, let's stake out a building. You can also stake out that job inside another one. F1, continue to our next menu. Here it's going to ask us our current setup. It's going to tell us our station ID, instrument height, backsight ID, target height, and method. You can also see F1, F3, and F6. We can keep our current setup, we can change to a new setup, or we can check our backsight. For this job, we want to do F3, new setup. Station setup menu. The method you can select with the stylus or use enter to bring down the drop down menu. We want to say known backsight because we're working within a job that we created and we know which backsight we want to use. Enter to accept. Station coordinates we want to use from our control job. Again, drop down menu with the stylus or enter. You can see we have other options. From control jobs what we want to use. Station ID. We want to say that we're occupying CPA. Enter to accept. Once we have our instrument height, we can type that in using the keyboard, the keypad, and hit enter to accept. Our control job, what we're working off of, we want to make sure that that is also default. Once that's set up, we can hit continue to go to our backsight setup menu. You can see on the top, next to setup, you have a backsight info tab and a station info tab. If you hit page or F6, you can scroll through that. You can see that our backsight ID BS001 has a northing, an easting, and elevation. Also station info. Page back to the setup. Once we have our backsight ID selected, we can input our reflector height. Use the keypad, type in the height, and hit enter to accept. Once we have everything set up, we're ready to record where we are at. We need to set our backsight and let the instrument know where it's occupying. Make sure before you hit set that the rod man is set on the point, if it's a point, or change the reflector to a reflector tape if you're using a backsight point on a wall, and make sure that we're locked onto the prism. If we're not locked on, it will automatically search. If that doesn't work, you can hit F7 to manually search for the prism. The instrument will search 360 degrees from its previous location until it locks on to the instrument. If it's not locked onto the prism, you will see a pair of binoculars and it will be looking for it, and then once it finds it, you will see a crosshair with a target around it. Alright, so we're backsighting our backsight and we're ready to set our position. You can hit F1 to set, and it's going to tell you that our station and orientation has been set and our angle right has been set. So now our angle right is set to 0 and we're ready to turn our angles. Hit F4 to OK. It's going to bring us into our stakeout mode. The other thing you want to make sure is next to the right of the prism, on the icons at the top, you want to make sure that this menu here, you can click on it with the stylus. You want to make sure that that is set EDM mode to tracking. This way it tracks the prism and your location of your point in real time. Otherwise you have to keep repeatedly hitting distance as you move. F1, continue. You can see the point management above the reflector height of 5.7. If we click on that, we can select any point that we want to stake out, use the arrows and hit enter, or you can simply use over to select a point. Once you are on a point that you want to stake out, you're going to hit F2 distance to start checking in reference to the point location. As I hit F2, you will see as the rod gets closer and closer to the point, it will eventually change to a crosshair to zero in. As you get on point, you're going to hit F3 to record, or you can also hit F1 to stop if you want to stop the distance and not record. So we're going to record the point. Once we're on point, using your bipod legs, make sure it's plumb, and once you're satisfied to where you should be, you're going to hit F3, record that point. It's going to tell you that your point has been recorded and you would like to store it. It will move to the next consecutive point on the options you have set up. Either set up to go to the consecutive point 3 or the next closest point. After you are finished with the stakeout mode, you can hit escape. It's going to bring you back to the menu of stakeout, and then you can hit escape back out to the main menu. You're ready to start your next task.